Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes, and I would like to talk about a story that I've seen here, and I would like to do so from a personal point of view. It's a bit different from my normal ones, this, but it's because the story appeared in the line here that I've got, and I thought, you know what, that's very odd. And so we're going to have a little journey, first of all, back into the past, and then very slightly into the future, and we're going to talk about Ireland. Back in the 90s, in fact, right at the beginning of the 90s, back in January 1990, there was an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, and in that episode, Captain Jean-Luc Picard talked with Lieutenant Commander Data, and the conversation got around to Irish reunification. This episode was never shown on British television at the time. They banned it at the time. It subsequently has been shown, but at the time it was deemed to be politically difficult, I suppose. The Troubles were still on. There'd just been the Omagh bombing not so long prior to that. There was the big peace talks coming on. You know, they were looking towards getting the Good Friday Agreement sorted. And they just thought that this would be a bit meh. Didn't want to get involved with it. So they didn't allow it to be shown. And that's fine, you know. At the time, you can understand certain things at the time. Looking back, it was a throwaway line that didn't really need to be put in there, but whatever. However, and this is where it's odd. It's the prescience. Because in that episode, Data says that the date of reunification of Ireland was 2024. And here we are. Now, you might be thinking, but they haven't reunified. No, they haven't reunified yet. And that's where we're going to take this little trip into the future. But we'll start today, because as it stands today, a lot of people in the North from a Protestant or Unionist background have privately, if not publicly, accepted the fact that reunification is going to happen. It's almost inevitable, and that they are actually preparing for it. And one of the ways in which these people are preparing for it, these sort of Northern Irish Protestant background people are preparing for it, is they're rushing out and getting themselves an Irish passport. And I know this to be true because, dear viewer, I am one of them. I am awaiting my Irish passport to come through the post. Only because of the advantage it gives you. You become a European citizen, you can flit in and out of Europe all the time, open bank accounts, buy property, there's no issues. But there's also the fact that I also feel that Northern Ireland will be subsumed into the South just to create the Republic of Ireland extension, you know, the download content, DLC. So, you know, Ireland will expand, it'll be a single country. It seems inevitable now. And I will tell you why in a moment. James Nesbitt, the actor, Northern Irishman, Protestant, Unionist, he was giving an event. He was at an event in Dublin, of course. And he too suggested that it seemed inevitable that Ireland would unite. And he said that the people of the North shouldn't be afraid. He says, because it's not the old days. He says, it's not the days of the Troubles. It's not the sort of historical Badlands. He says, Ireland now is a much changed place. It's a modern European democracy. There's human rights. There's a better understanding of difference. He says, he goes around, he says, and he chats to people. He says he never gets called out. He says the biggest flack he gets is from his own friends and family when he told them he'd got an Irish passport, he says. But also, funnily enough, he said, a lot of them went out and got an Irish passport as well. He says, so it's almost accepted now that this is going to be the thing. It's inevitable. He said, sure, on both sides there's going to be holdouts. But he says, basically, they're arseholes. He says, and over time, they'll just, you know, not be there anymore. Modern Irish people don't actually care. The young ones especially don't care. They've never grown up with that. They've never grown up with the differences. They're all from a time of peace, he says. And there's other fish to fry. In fact, in Ireland, of course, just as an aside, the big problem in Ireland now is the immigration problem. Now, Northern Ireland getting attached to the South isn't an immigration problem because they're not suddenly rushing into Ireland. They're already there. They've already got their homes, their jobs, their factories, their offices. They've already got their hospitals, their roads, their schools. The infrastructure's in place. It's just click of Lego blocks. It's not 1 million people rushing in, suddenly swamping the resources, because the resources are coming with the people, you see. So that's a different thing. But the immigration problem, on the other hand, in Ireland is absolutely awful, and it's leading to many, many tensions. However, that's a different video for a different day. What we're looking at is this prediction that 2024 would be the date of unification is clearly wrong. It's not going to unify in 2024, but 2024 is the start, I think, of that inevitable progress towards unification. The conclusion may be a few years away, of course, but the journey starts here. There's many in the south, in the political sphere, that want unification. There's some that want it but want to be wary because of the costs involved, but, you know, that's fair enough. There's many in the north, obviously, that want reunification, and there's some, obviously, that don't. They might not want it, but there's of the ones that don't want it, about half of them know it's going to happen and just accepting it. The other ones are like, you know, whatever. Sinn Féin, changed organisation, I suppose we better accept that, but they are pushing for a referendum. And I think inevitably there must be one. With the South putting pressure on, with people within the North putting pressure on, I think there will be a referendum. And I think that the referendum will be for a united all-island Ireland. And the reason, and this is where I go, is one of demographics. And that's just simply the numbers are just there for it. There's far more Catholics in Northern Ireland than Protestants now. That's not to say, of course, that all Catholics want to be reunited with Ireland. That's definitely not the case. There's a lot of Catholics who are against that. They want to keep Northern Ireland separate from the South, you'd think. You can be, this is a really weird thing, you can be Catholic and Union. They do exist. There's not many, I will grant you there's not many, but they do exist. In the same way as there's Protestant nationalists, that too exists. Just because you're Protestant doesn't make you a nationalist and vice versa. But anyway, so the motion towards, if I may nick that from Life of Brian, the motion towards reunification is definitely starting now, starting in 2024. When it finishes, who knows? I think in my lifetime, I think 10, 15, maybe 20 years, I foresee Ireland being reunited, unified, and a single state. But it starts now in 2024. So well done, Star Trek. Do you steal your scriptwriters from The Simpsons? They seem to predict a lot too. Thanks a lot. Bye.